Welcome to the Lida Citroën Podcast, your space to grow your influence and elevate your personal brand. In each episode, you'll hear inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical strategies to help you stand out, lift up others, and leave your mark on your team, your community, or the world. If you're ready to make your voice heard, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Who do you trust? Who trusts you? Do enough people trust you or just a few people? And how do you know if they really trust you or they're going along with what you say because you're the boss and you hold their paycheck? That's what we're going to be talking about today in the Lida Citroën Podcast. Welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome, my friend. If this is your second or third or fourth time visiting the Lida Citroën Podcast, welcome back. Really excited that you're with us for this conversation because trust is the name of the game. It is the foundation of everything we do. And if people don't trust you, first of all, how do you know? And second of all, what do you do? That's what we're going to talk about. It's all about being a leader who can empower, enlist, create safety, get people excited, make sure you're consistent. It's all about those things. And we're going to unpack them in my 5 pillars of trustworthy leadership. So let's go ahead and dive in. The foundation of trust is a non-negotiable commitment. And here's what I mean by that. If you want to build trust, it isn't something that you do a little bit. It isn't something you do sometimes. It's what you do consistently in everything. And you commit to it. You make a decision as a leader to build trust. Interestingly, Forbes in May of 2025 did an article called Trust is the New Currency: How Leaders Future-Proof Their Presence. And one thing that it said in the article that I thought was absolutely fabulous: in a turbulent world that constantly disrupts our plans and perceptions, trust has become the new currency of leadership. Trust is a strategy. Leaders who invest in trust create the conditions for others to collaborate, contribute, and grow even when the path is unclear. Future-proofing your presence doesn't begin with performance metrics. It starts with how well people feel seen, heard, and respected in your presence. We all know those people who make us feel that way. We all know those people who just lift us up and we feel we can ask a question or share an idea or challenge an assumption because there isn't going to be a negative consequence. Those are the people who have committed to trust. They are able to move ego off to the side. They are willing to be real with us and tell us what something feels like because their focus is on that commitment to us, to what our experience is going to be, to how clear we are on the vision and the mission and the purpose. They care about us. I remember I wrote an article a few years ago, and the title was something like, "Telling me to trust you is like saying you're a good kisser." It's really not for you to decide. I'm the one who decides if you're a good kisser. I also decide if I can trust you. So telling me to trust you, okay, whatever. But if I believe I can trust you, and then you tell me I can trust you, it's like I already knew that. So trust is a commitment. Trust is something that you wholeheartedly lean into, amplify, reinforce, and promote because it is that important to you. It is non-negotiable. I need my team to trust me. I need my clients to trust me. That doesn't mean that they don't get to question it. It doesn't mean that they have to abide by everything I say, but they trust that my words, my actions, everything is coming from a good place. And it is coming from a place of leadership, not control, not coercion, but it's coming from a place of authentic, heartfelt leadership. Over time, they will learn to trust you. Over time, you have learned to trust the people that you admire. So that's the first pillar. When was the last time your keynote speaker drove more action than just excitement? Today, it's not just enough to energize the audience. We need to show them how to use the skills we're teaching. If you're looking for a speaker who will drive your business goals, let's talk. Check out Lida360.com for more information. And our second pillar may be the hardest, but it's also the most powerful. It's the foundation of personal branding. It's the foundation of influence. It's the foundation of everything that we do as leaders. And that is trust. Trusted leaders are credible. And I'll unpack that. When we talk about credibility, if you've followed my work, you know that I describe credibility as the formula of values plus action. You tell me what you stand for, and you show me by action that you actually live those values, right? Just to tell me that you believe in honesty isn't enough if I see you being dishonest. But if I consistently see that over time, you're showing honesty, you're leaning into honesty when it would be a lot more comfortable to kind of skirt the issue, then I start to believe that when you tell me honesty is a value of yours, I start to trust that it's true. So the formula is values plus action. And in my experience, having done hundreds, if not thousands of programs teaching this, most of us are living some form of our values, right? We're going about our day doing the things that we believe define us, that root us in our moral operating system, if you will. But we're not telling people about that. So I'll give you an example of how values plus action equals credibility works. When I first started trying to help the military, right? Trying to find a way to serve those who had served, what was driving that was my values of gratitude and generosity. I am that person who is so grateful for everything I have been given, everything I have worked for, every relationship, every opportunity, even the challenges have taught me something. I live a life of gratitude. And if I can't be grateful, then it's not a good situation or relationship or opportunity for me. So gratitude is one of my pillars, but the other is generosity. I thrive in being generous. I thrive when I'm giving more than is expected. And I am a very generous person. Wait till you see my Christmas tree. It's ridiculous. I love to spoil people. I love to delight clients when they think they're getting this, and I give them this amazing extra that they weren't expecting. Generosity is fun. It rewards the people who are doing good in the world. It rewards the people who make me smile. I just love the idea of being generous. So gratitude and generosity were rooted in who I am. And I learned that the military was not being taught the skills and expertise that I have when they come out of the service. And I said I was going to help. Gratitude and generosity, those two values were driving this. But then comes the action part, right? So I started speaking at conferences. I started writing articles. I've been writing for military.com for 13 years, something like that. I started giving all this information and coaching and mentoring and traveling all over the place on my own dime as a brand new business. That was fun. To be generous, because I'm so grateful for the service of the men and women in this country who've raised their hand to protect my freedom. So I was doing all this. The action was there. The values were very clear to me, but I wasn't establishing credibility until I did what you need to do, and that is connect the two. I need to stand in front of every audience, and before I get going in a presentation or a training or a workshop or a keynote, anything, in a military audience, I need to say, I am here today because I am grateful for your service. I need to tie that value and action together. so that there is no confusion. There is no misunderstanding of why is she here, right? Is she being paid a lot of money? No. My military work is service. Maybe she has nothing else to do. Trust me, I have other things to do. But I do this because I'm grateful and I want to be generous. So I have to connect those in order to build credibility for the values and action I want to be known for. And it works. It absolutely works. But that's the icky part, because you have to start telling people who you are. And in order to be a trustworthy leader, we have to know what you stand for. We have to know what is organic to what you believe in, right? What's non-negotiable? Trust is non-negotiable, but what's non-negotiable for you? Could you lead in a situation where you couldn't be inclusive? Could you lead in a situation where you couldn't be honest or be in integrity or compromise some value that is so core to who you are? So it's really important as we think about building trust that we let people know who we are. Now, I will put a caveat, and many of you have watched this YouTube video I did that really kind of took off, where I talked about being anti-transparency. I'm not a big fan of transparency. I think government should be transparent. I think some businesses, depending on how they're structured, should be transparent. But I don't think as people, we should be transparent, at least not with everyone. I think in our intimate relationships with our partner, with our spouse, maybe even with our kids or close friends, there's a level of transparency. But when we go on social media or we stand in front of our, staff or shareholders, I don't believe transparency is appropriate, because sometimes the conversation brings things up that maybe we haven't processed. Maybe a viral campaign on social media is bringing up trauma or triggers that are very painful. Does that mean that in order to be a trustworthy leader, we have to contribute? That's where we get in trouble. We've seen so many instances of leaders who lean in to conversations they have no business participating in. Either they don't know all the information, they aren't bringing a very truthful perspective, they aren't familiar with the community that this conversation is affected, and so it just looks like trolling. I mean, it looks like I want to be in the conversation too, so throw my name in the hat, and they can't answer anything about it. It doesn't work. My advice is pick the lanes that are authentic to you, that are real to you, that speak to you. Become knowledgeable, intelligent, emotional about those lanes, and be real. But don't feel you have to be transparent. We don't have to tell people everything about ourselves. We should share the context behind decisions. And that's where leaders have the benefit of thinking ahead, right? So if you have to make a decision that's painful, maybe you can't share the backstory because it's confidential, or it involves something that you're not allowed to talk about as the leader of the organization. Share enough so that people understand and can get the context, but don't feel you have to go all the way to transparency. If you add details, if you're not prepared, that's when we see people fumble. They fumble at the microphone, and we can't afford to do that anymore. If you have an opportunity to frame a challenge as an opportunity for growth or learning, that's fabulous. I know during the COVID pandemic, when companies were telling employees stay home, we're going to figure out how to do this, there was a lot of uncertainty. But a lot of really good, trustworthy leaders said, yeah, I don't know what's happening either, and here's what we can do. We're going to find ways to collaborate virtually instead of in person. And here's how we can do that. So they were showing that there was growth. They were showing that they were leaning in and learning in to what was happening. And that's fabulous. Encourage really good dialogue. When a trustworthy leader is being real, they allow for questions. If you're just looking for an echo chamber, then you're not going to be open to hearing different viewpoints. So ask those questions. Listen to what the people around you have to say. I'm reminded of a podcast I did for the International Association of Women. And Megan, the woman who does the podcast, she's absolutely brilliant. She, we'll have to get her on here someday. She asked, or she shared a story of how she had, as the leader, the president of this organization, had opened the floor for dialogue, and somebody challenged her, and she in that moment got quiet. Everybody in the room you could see the panic on everyone's face. And she thanked the person. She said, "Thank you for bringing that up. Tell me more about that." Because we don't know if we don't ask. So in order to show that you're a real person and that you really care, it's important to ask the question and be okay with what you hear. If you trust yourself and you're credible, meaning you're rooted in your values, those values are driving your action, then you're going to be okay if someone has a different viewpoint. And they're going to feel part of the outcome because you listened, you saw them, you acknowledged, you asked for more. Such a powerful thing to do. And there are times when you're going to have to say, "I can't explain that. I can't share that. I am not at liberty to." And I think in this world of social media, some people find that unacceptable. But if you've ever led a team, if you've ever been part of a big organization, you know that there are roadblocks. I mean, there are boundaries. And I think as listeners, we have to start getting okay with that, because pushing somebody beyond that can actually become a legal issue. So if you take the confidence and just say, "I can't go further with that. I just need you to trust me that I'm watching it. I'm watching out for you. I'm watching out for the whole organization, the team, the project, the initiative." That builds trust. It may not be the answer people want. They might want all the juicy details, but sometimes you're not at a liberty to discuss. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about more pillars of trustworthy leadership. Over 1 million professionals around the world have taken my LinkedIn Learning courses, and they're seeing amazing results. Now it's your turn to join them. Visit my LinkedIn Learning page and see all the available options to create your personal brand, have honest career conversations, apply for a job inside your company, and grow your career. You can find the direct link in the show notes below. So the third trustworthy leadership pillar is predictability. I talked earlier about consistency, and it kind of builds on that. But this idea of predictability is what builds psychological safety. And I love the conversation around psychological safety that Amy Edmondson introduced, oh my gosh, a few years ago. And it's where we build within a team a shared belief that it's okay to take a risk. It's okay to speak up, question, offer an idea, and make a mistake, because there won't be negative consequences. And as trustworthy leaders, it's very hard to build this. And once you build psychological safety with your team, it is precious. Like, you have to maintain that at all costs, because it's easy to break. So, your consistency in your words, in your actions, your decisions foster trust. And I go back to that credibility formula, right? Values plus action. When you're saying things, when you're doing things, tying it to your values so that they really start to learn who you are, what you stand for. I know with my own team, sometimes it's a struggle for me, because I want to be challenged. I want to have somebody question something, because then I'm going to learn maybe there's something I missed, but also maybe they're wrong. And now I'm learning more about their thinking, and there's a coaching opportunity there. But if I don't react right, if I am dismissive or make them feel unsafe, good luck getting that again, right? They're going to recoil and hold back instead of bringing something forward that could be a great idea. Now, that doesn't mean I have to acknowledge everything and in the way that I'm saying yes, right? Oh, yes, let's go spend money on that app. Because trust me, I have squirrel syndrome, which means every time something new comes out, a new piece of technology, a new app, a new AI tool, a new something, I'm like, oh, look at the squirrel, right? I just want to go play with it. And I will spend money. Not necessarily always smart, but I get excited about new things. And I've empowered my team to challenge me on that. And yes, sometimes it does feel like I'm a toddler standing in the toy store and they're saying I have to put the toy back on the shelf and I don't get to play with it. But that's what I need. I need that. I need them to feel safe enough that they can say, okay, Lida, walk me through how that's going to help us. Because we always also have these 3 things over here that we already invested in. So how's that new thing that's really cool and has all these fun features? How is that going to add? And then I have to be accountable. I have to own up to, yeah, okay, probably would be a waste of money. But that's building psychological safety. We have to have that with the people around us. And it's not just at work, right? It's with our loved ones, our friends, our networking contacts, making sure that people know they can bring something to us, and we're not going to judge the delivery as much as we're going to listen to the message. I have a friend who, not great on the delivery, very pointed, very, very straight talker. And sometimes it feels sharp. And sometimes I'm just like, huh. And I start to recoil because my feelings get hurt, or I didn't ask for that opinion. But I have to step back and say to myself, is there validity in the message? Remove the delivery for a second. Is there validity in the message? Similarly, we all know people who sugarcoat the message and pad the message and wrap the message in all sorts of candy canes and cupcakes and bunnies and rainbows, to the point where we love the message, but we don't know what they said. So there's a balance, right? When we build psychological safety with our teams, it is about being consistent in our actions, values plus action, but it's also being responsive. And as leaders, when we get that kind of a message, they need to have psychological safety that we are going to receive it in the right way. Number 4, leading through trust and not control. So ask yourself, are you a control freak? And I know Sabrina's laughing, who's helping me produce this podcast. She's laughing because she knows I am, right? I like to have control. And it's been a very hard thing for me to learn the act of this thing called delegation, because I always think I can do it faster, better. I have all the context, I have all the information. I want to just control the process. I want to control the idea. I want to control the outcome. I've had to let that go in a lot of ways. And I wouldn't say I'm 100% there, but I have had to let that go, because we build trust with people when we empower them, when we give them the tools to be successful. And sometimes we're delighted. I mean, there have been many times where my team produces something and I go, wow, that is even better than I could have done, right? Because my context is only mine. But I'm delighted with what they come up with. And sometimes it's off target. And that's okay too, because that's where there's coaching moments and coaching opportunities to sort of, re-educate them on what the outcome could be, and to look within myself and say, did I communicate it right? Did I set the expectation right at the beginning? Because then, there's no way I would have gotten it. Think of a leader who you trust. Think of someone who empowers you. Just while we're having this conversation, think of someone who empowers you and what that feels like, right? Maybe they've just built tremendous psychological safety. You know what they stand for. You feel that they're real and consistent. What does that do for you? Does it excite you? Does it intimidate you? Chances are it excites you, right? Chances are it makes you feel like, ooh, there's a new project. All right, what do we got? Right? Instead of, oh, there's a new project. What obstacles am I going to run into? When we empower the people around us through mentoring, through delegation, through all these tools, we surround ourselves with people who are in the same mission. And a leader, especially a leader with influence, has got to have people around them that believe in the same mission. And it's not the same thing as control. I have coached and mentored clients who really didn't understand the difference between influence, leadership, and control. They think that to be the boss, having that job title means people will fall in line. Well, they will, because their paycheck depends on it, because they don't want to be out of work, because their status to the opportunity. That's not the same thing as influencing and being a leader in that situation. So, building that kind of trust, building that kind of empowerment is where people follow us and they have the context. They understand what the vision is, and then they bring their own perspective, their own nuance to what it is you're trying to build. So the fifth pillar of trustworthy leadership often doesn't get talked about, but we're going to talk about it here. And that is repairing trust when it gets broken. And let's face it, we're all human beings. We are going to make mistake. But what happens? What do you do when you break trust? I remember a few years into my career, I worked for a boss. I thought I would have described him as a leader. And I thought he was absolutely what I wanted to emulate. He empowered us. He motivated us. He knew when to use humor. He just was amazing. And I absolutely loved working for him. And one of the things he often said is, I've got your back. Don't worry about it. I've got your back. We need more budget for this project. Don't worry about it. I've got your back. That was like his famous line. And it felt great, right? It felt like whatever we needed to be successful, he was going to go to bat for. Problem was, he didn't. And it was hard for us to find that out at first. I think I found it out, or somebody else that was at my level, we were directors, found out that he actually wasn't advocating for the things he told us he was advocating for. And in conversations where he would go forward and tell us, I tried, there's just no more money in the budget, or I tried, but we can't work together with that organization. There's, agreements in place, whatever it was that we were trying to get done in order to be successful. And he would say, don't worry, I've got your back. We came to find out he didn't. And it's amazing what happens in a situation like that, because it's like a domino effect. Then you start questioning, well, wait a minute. When I brought that to him and he said, don't worry, I've got your back, maybe he didn't. And when he was so excited about this upcoming initiative or merger, because the company went through a merger, maybe he didn't. And you start questioning everything. Trust, just like that psychological safety we talked about, is so fragile. And yes, the more context, the more consistency, the more realness, it is a little bit of an insulator. It's a little bit of a buffer, but it won't save you just by itself. So when you break trust, whether you had to, or whether you missed the ball or you missed the mark and you just weren't paying attention, or whether you thought you could get away with it, I don't know. Whenever you've had to break that trust, there are a few things you should do first. And the big one is accountability, right? None of us like to take accountability because it shows that we're able to make mistakes. And I would love for everyone in the world just to think I'm perfect. Can't make a mistake. But that's not true, right? So we've had to take accountability. We have to own our mistake. We have to look people in the eyes that we have hurt and betrayed and broken trust with and say, yeah, I messed up. I made a mistake. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And I know how hard that is to hear. No excuses, no blaming other people, no diverting, owning. Just absolute accountability. It is really hard to do. Our ego's involved. We feel vulnerable. We don't want people to see that side of us. But it is the side that starts to rebuild trust. The next thing is to apologize. And it may be apologizing on social media. It may be having one-on-one conversations. It may be apologizing to each board member if you've made a mistake. Whoever you have hurt, whoever you have impacted and broken trust with, we need to apologize. And to do an apology starts with the accountability, and it doesn't include blame. So there's something, and you may have caught that I caught myself earlier. When we say, I made a mistake, but here's what happened. The but, the B-U-T in that sentence has negated everything that came before it. Somebody sent me an email the other day and it said, I know how passionate you are on this. I know how much you care. I know, where your heart is, but this is what I don't like. Everything that came before the but is negated by that word. So replacing it with and. I made a mistake. And here was a situation and I didn't think it through and I chose the wrong door to go through. It's and instead of but, and apologizing to the people that you've affected. Number 3, under repairing trust, is listening to how your actions have impacted people. All we know is our intention. All we know is our side of the story. We don't know other people's side of the story, and their perception, the impact to them, is what we need to listen to. We need to let people tell us how it felt, how it impacts their life and their work, and how they see the world, how it impacts their relationship to us and the trust that we held. We need to be strong enough to listen to that. And it is uncomfortable AF. We don't like it, right? We don't want someone to tell us that we let them down, that that they feel we betrayed them. And they might use language that we feel is like, come on, it wasn't that big a deal. But it was to them. And maybe the language or the way that they're delivering the message isn't ideal, but what's behind the message is. The message itself is what we need to listen to. And if we have to, we start at the beginning again and we take accountability and we apologize and we listen some more, however long that needs to happen for that person. And if you're given the grace to do the final step, you spell out how you will avoid making that mistake again. If you sent a message on social media before the plane doors closed and you hadn't thought it through and it hurt someone's feelings, or you were frustrated and tired in a meeting and said something out of that frustration and fatigue that you wish you could take back, what are you going to do in the future to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again? And it does feel a little almost childish to do that, but it's important to the people that are listening, right? Because you can own what you did and you can apologize for what you did, and that's groovy. But how am I going to know you're not going to do it again? And what happens if you do it again? What do I get to do? Can I call you out on it if you do it again? Do you want me to just kind of, suck it up and go on with my day? What do you want me to do when you're telling me you're not going to do it again? And if it does happen, because again, we're human beings, we're flawed, we're going to make mistakes. So these are the ways that you work through it. Regaining trust can be a very long-term process. It can be a long-term process to build trust. It can be a long-term process to rebuild it if you break it. It's that sacred. Today, we need trustworthy leaders. We need leaders who are agile. Go back and listen to my conversation in this podcast with Bobby Thompson. He shared so many nuggets of wisdom around agile leadership. I mean, it's phenomenal and really powerful. And it talks about what we're talking about today. Trustworthy leadership is the name of the game. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say I made a mistake. It's okay to say my biggest value is faith. It's okay to say these things because they make you you. And real people connect with real people. So let's focus more on being real, on being consistent, on sharing our values and what drives us, on building psychological safety with the people around us, on empowering them. Let's focus on those things and watch our trust grow. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I love this topic. I would love to hear what you think about this topic. We are obviously going to be building on this in future podcasts. So please come back. Please listen again. Share with your friends. Share with maybe a leader on your team who might benefit from this message. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Lida Citroën Podcast. In the meantime, I wish you health, happiness, and all good things.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lida Citroën Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. It helps more people discover these inspiring conversations. For more tools, insights, and resources, visit Lida360.com or connect with Lida on LinkedIn. Until next time, remember, your influence has the power to make a real difference.